basically the short answer is there is no magic pill for getting rid of arm pump. But so obviously this is a huge thing and something that I personally help riders with on a daily basis with a lot of different people. So what we've basically brought it down to is there's 3 aspects that you need to work on in order to get rid of arm pump. And this basically comes down to around my MX Fit system that I use as well, which is your mind, body, and bike. So being that arm pump, so starting with the mind, a lot of the times arm pump is a huge mindset issue in the simple fact that so you're holding on too tight to the bars because you're not comfortable, you're in a stressed state, you're not confident in yourself, your abilities, what the bike's going to do, all those kinds of things. So you need to work on those areas so that you can have more confidence in yourself and your abilities on the bike and what the bike's going to do, so you can actually just relax on the bike and not ride so tense. So there's a lot more to it than that, but yeah, just knowing that there is that aspect, and it is probably one of the biggest reasons for why you are getting arm pump. As another example is that, like, if you're riding and you're thinking don't squeeze the bars, or don't get arm pump, even though you're saying don't, like you don't want those things, all your subconscious mind hears is squeeze the bars or get arm pump. It doesn't hear the don't. So all you're doing is you're basically just telling your subconscious mind that that's the outcome that's going to happen. And so inevitably it's just going to happen. So there's also that concept of your internal dialogue and self-talk, and the stories that you tell yourself and all that are also a massive aspect towards arm pump as well. Yeah, sorry. So, and then we've got the body aspect. So that's where it basically comes into what we can do in our training off the bike to help us to eliminate arm pump. So yes, arm pump is a physiological thing that happens to us. So it's the fact that we have more blood flowing into the muscle than we can pull out of the muscle. So one of the things we can do is we can increase our aerobic endurance, which increases our body's efficiency and ability to pump blood around the body. So that's a really big aspect that can really help with arm pump. The other thing is we can work on our movement and strength on the bike as well. So that similar sort of idea that I spoke about before with the weight training, we get stronger and we dial in our movement patterns so that we move more efficiently on the bike. So that means that when we are moving on the bike, we're going to just naturally start using the bigger muscles through our upper back and our posterior chain to maneuver around on the bike and distribute weight and all those kinds of things, as opposed to using the small little muscles in our hands and arms and stuff like that. So that's a huge aspect. And then the other thing that we've found has been really, really helpful for a lot of riders recently is working on wrist mobility is a big one as well. So making sure that you have strong and mobile wrists so that they can actually move freely, and that when you do take them close to your end range of motion, that you're not putting a block and a restriction to the blood flow and stuff like that as well. So we've seen some really awesome results and progression with people's arm pump by doing some daily mobility work on the wrists as well. That's a big one. Yeah. And then just to wrap it up, we've also got the bike. So that just comes down to the fact that we need to be technically sound on the bike. So that's where it's just so important to be going off and getting some coaching and some technique correction and stuff like that on the bike on a regular basis, and making sure that you're being diligent and really focused on your own technique and stuff like that on the bike when you're riding too, because technique is what creates efficiency on the bike and allows you to do things on the bike properly. So yeah, huge aspect. And then you've also just got the simple idea that you just need to have your bike set up properly as well. So you've got to have your controls all set up properly. You don't want to have your levers too high so that you're cranking your wrists all the time, which can block things up, which comes into that wrist mobility idea. But then you've also just got to make sure that your bike is actually going to work with you and not against you. So that comes into setting up your suspension and all those things as well, because sometimes you just can be fighting the bike when you shouldn't be. So that's another really big aspect as well.